Then with that, I will call to order the Land Clearance for Redevelopment Authority for the City of St. Louis for its regularly scheduled meeting held on Wednesday, July 26, 2023, held via Zoom. Can we do a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Spencer,
Present.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Jones, are you present?
I think he needs to turn up his volume.
You think what? I'm sorry.
He probably needs to turn up his volume.
Kennard, turn the volume up on your computer. Is he hearing me? I'll come back. Commissioner Anderson
Present.
and Chairman McBride,
Present.
Commissioner Jones. I see you, but I can't hear you. Something's not right.
All right. Well, we'll,
Go ahead and we'll see what.
yeah, he is. I will note that Commissioner Jones is present.
I'm going to call.
You're gonna
Should we
call?
call him before we get to the next resolutions? I would say.
Yes,
Yeah, we'll call him
call.
before we do the minutes. Yeah, to make sure that he can hear us.
Here, I'll hold up this sign.
Yeah, you have to speak though to take over his. Marvin, you have to speak to take over his.
Hey.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, he can't hear.
He can't hear. All right.
We're on again. Can you hear
So-
me? You can't hear anybody?
We can hear you.
Okay.
On your Zoom link? Can you go out and come back in? Because it should say join with audio.
Yeah, he's not on the guest side.
Hold on a minute. Can you all still hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
ma'am.
He's gonna back out of Zoom to see, because he doesn't even see the link for him to have audio. So he's gonna back out and come back in, but if you all want to go ahead and do the resolutions, we can do that. I mean, the minutes.
Okay. And Linda, while you're at it, I believe Alderman Cohn is on the
Other side,
other side. If we could bring him as a presenter.
okay.
Yeah, so at this time, we'll take up approval of minutes for the meeting held on June 27, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Chairman Bride,
Aye.
and we have a quorum, motion approves, with all three commissioners voting yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Let's give Kennard just a moment as we get to the resolutions.
I just saw your name pop up.
Yeah, so he's populating. All right. Commissioner Jones, can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now? He said, hold on for a minute.
You can put him on speaker on your cell phone.
That's what I'm gonna do. Bernard?
Okay, here we go. They give me some choices here.
Okay, he said he's getting choices.
Okay, and I just heard Commissioner, I just heard Kennard, I thought. Kennard, can you hear us now?
I think he was speaking to Linda over the phone.
Yeah, I had him on my speaker. What did he
Okay,
say? Lauren?
I just want to make sure he can hear us and then we can
Okay.
proceed. So can he
I'm-
signal he hears us so we can proceed?
He said he can hear you talking in the background, but what I'm gonna do is put him on speaker on my phone
Okay,
until he gets everything squared away.
very
Okay.
good. Thank you.
I'm gonna
Okay,
put you on my speaker, okay? Well, unmute just. Hold on, Chairman Brian. Can you hear us now, Bernard? No. Okay, we're gonna put you on speaker because you can't, I asked you if you could hear. Hold on. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Say hello. He's on now, Chairman
okay, I can
Brian.
hear Commissioner Jones. Very good. Excuse me. All right, we're going to take up the first resolution on the agenda, 23 LCRA 10791, relating to the designation of Goodco as developer of Cleveland High School site. And I am recusing myself from this matter as my firm represents Mr. Goodson from time to time and on certain matters. So Zach, you going to take it away for us?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. This resolution designates Goodco LLC as redevelopment of certain property located in the Merrimack, South Compton, Bates, and South Grand redevelopment area. This redevelopment area was passed in February 2019 by ordinance 70923. That ordinance allowed for up to 25 years of tax abatement for the Cleveland High School building and the athletic field in front of it. The rest of the area was allowed for abatement under 25 years, I believe it was up to 15 years. That designation of up to 25 years was speaking on behalf of SLDC in the city that what an asset Cleveland High School is to the area and how we would like to see it redeveloped. This, as you can see under background, this is just the first step in the process of developing Cleveland High School. Each phase, once they're kind of more flushed out, would come back to the LCRA commission to be voted on. And also just to clarify, any type of agreement signed by SLDC or LCRA would be done before all taxes are made current by the developer. So we have Chris Goodson here to speak on behalf of Goodco LLC, and Alderman Cohn here also to speak on behalf of the development.
All right. Alderman Cohn, why don't you go first? I think you may have some time commitments.
I'm fine, Commissioner, if Mr. Goodson wants to go.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Mr. Goodson?
Well, thank you, Alderman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good afternoon. I'll be very brief here. Mr. Wilson explained it pretty thoroughly. So number one, I'm very excited about this opportunity to try to transform an area that is very much like, in many ways, the City Hospital project I did, almost City Hospital sequel. City Hospital, won't bore you with all the war stories, but can some other time, was in worse condition than this building. Looked like something out of a science fiction movie. And drug houses around it, junkyards, literally a motorcycle gang across the street, an active one that I negotiated with and came out with alive. But that beautiful structure was scheduled for the demolition ball and was going to be part of a transport way station off the highway there. So thankfully it's been saved, and over many years has been redeveloped into apartments, condos, retail, event space. I like to say the largest climbing and bouldering gym in the Midwest. And also AT Still, a wonderful university, dental university that put their clinic here, and they've been amazing. I envision the same process for Cleveland High School. And this is, as Mr. Wilson alluded to in his comments, this is way in the infancy stage. I want to be able to collaborate with the city, the school district, the aldermen, the different business districts that are represented around there, and of course, mainly the neighborhood groups to see what the best and highest use is to transform Cleveland. Have some ideas about some mixed use housing, some institutional with potentially medical or nonprofit groups involved, and also, of course, some retail potentially up on Grand. And Grand would be part of that process and getting stakeholders like the state, obviously the city involved in re-envisioning Grand to its name, Grand Boulevard. It's a beautiful street that's underutilized right now. And as I'm sure Alderman Coleman will attest to, can be an entryway to our wonderful city. Done this before many times. I'm excited to do this, but I'm much older than I was when I started in City Hospital 24 years ago. I still have the same passion. I hope I'm a little wiser, but I want to make it clear that we really need to involve all those groups I mentioned earlier in some charrettes and in some engagement, including the school district and the city and the aldermen together with the neighborhood to really transform this. This can be the impetus to transform this district. Last thing I'll say, City Hospital is like a black hole around the historic districts. I've raised all four of my daughters here in Lafayette Square, been in the city my whole life. And it was interesting. We would walk over to Soulard Market, and it wasn't that it was scary from the community. It was scary because of that science fiction looking building. But once that came alive, it connected all the different neighborhoods in a web. This same thing can be done for Cleveland, transforming this area, connecting it, driving the energy. Obviously, I'm an idealist and an optimist. There's a lot of work to do here, but gosh darn it, it's time we do some good things for the city. I've always wanted to do that, and I'm excited about this. So I'll be quiet, Mr. Chairman, and I cede the floor. For any questions, or the alderman, I don't know if you were speaking next.
Thank you. Why don't we go to any questions for Mr. Goodson?
Chairman McBride, I've just got a couple questions. So today's resolution, there's a kind of a catchment area. Are there other properties within these boundaries that are considered part of this process or this envisioned work? And then in addition to that, what's the status of the contract? Do you have an option on the property? Just what stage of ownership are you at?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, can I answer those questions as a commissioner?
Please do.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner, good afternoon, Spencer. Yes, I think your first question was about the area. This is only specifically focusing on the Cleveland High School property. I know there's other areas out there and there's wonderful opportunities here, but I'm trying to be extremely realistic and prudent and focus on the Cleveland High School property. Similar to City Hospital, Commissioner Spencer, there'll be other opportunities around this area once we get this baby going and get some life down there. But right now, that's the number one focus. Your second question was the school district. Yes, currently right now, we're under an agreement to move forward with the community engagement with myself leading the way with the school district, the aldermen, the city of St. Louis, and the neighborhood group. So they have been wonderfully supportive. Their board has been alerted of this and supportive. So that's where we are right now. From a real estate side, that'll move next to the option, then next to purchase as we move along this process.
Okay. And so the tax credit applications that are due in July would probably be next year before you applied for the historic state and preservation tax credits? That's
correct. Right. Okay. Again, you know, I've been in numerous of these meetings, and I love the pie in the sky projects because they're invigorating. That's not me. I want to talk about how we can do this. I know I can close my eyes and see what it looks like in the future, just like City Hospital. I want to do this in little baby steps. So that will absolutely be next.
And just a comment, I've been driving South Grand for 20 years, and it's in the worst state that it's been since I've started driving it. We are going to do, our organization at Power Grove is focused on South Grand as well. And honestly, Cleveland High School just needs an experienced leader that can pull all these pieces together, and I'm hopeful that you can be that leader. Thank you.
Oh, you're so correct. And I tell you, the stories and the legacy of that building are going to, and I know you'll hear me say City Hospital a lot, but there's not somewhere I don't go and I run into somebody that either was a nurse or a doctor or an intern or a resident at City Hospital or a patient or worked on the building. I've already had that similar experience with Cleveland. So there's a passion for this building that we can tap into that. And I know the alderman knows that. We can tap into that and really transform it. Grand, though, that needs to be a state and city effort. We need to focus on Grand. And right now, you know, there's blockades down the middle, and looks like, it doesn't look inviting, and we need to make it look inviting.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I just want to be clear that this resolution is just for the practice fields in front, the track and field, and the school building. All the properties outside the Cleveland campus is still eligible to be designated developer for property owners or small business or residential development. So we'd be open to any applications moving forward there.
Thanks for the clarification.
And Vice Chairman Anderson, do you want to make sure you
Sure,
wanna
I
call
will,
the strike on this one?
Yeah, if there aren't any other questions, I would ask if there is a motion to approve the naming of Goodco as the developer.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Oh, wait, looks like Alderman Cone has a question.
Yeah, I don't so much have a question as much as a statement. I got elected back in 2009 to the office of 25th Ward Alderman at the time. And, the school district had closed Cleveland High School just prior by a couple of years. I believe it was back in 2006. They closed it. Not to, take up too much of your time this afternoon, but this has been 15 years worth of effort on my part. So you'll have to indulge me a little bit. I would certainly appreciate the time this afternoon to share just some of the history here as well. So, when SLPS closed it, it was right before the Great Recession. There was a very valiant effort on the part of my neighbors to try and save the high school from closure. And, whether that was to reopen it as the ROTC school that had been there previously, or a combination of community assets, community partnerships, like the schools, having multiple schools in that one building. Those were all parts of conversations that were on the table at the time with the Special Administrative Board of St. Louis Public Schools. That effort went on for years. My neighbors reached out to the American Institute of Architects. They engaged with the alumni associations of Cleveland High School. We did a lot of work trying to not only engage the community, but various stakeholders to put together a plan, a feasibility plan for the high school, along with a vision. And that vision at the time was very much based off, trying to repurpose it as an education facility, because it had just been announced that it was closing. St. Louis Public Schools and the SAB were very much interested in ideas at the time. However, after several years, it became very obvious that it was not something that SLPS was going to be able to entertain. Partly because of the size of the building. It's over nearly 250,000 square feet. It sits on roughly 11 acres of land. And while the field out front looks like it's large enough to be a football field, it's actually not regulation size practice size for a high school football field. So that was also a limiting factor for high schools that might have strong participation in sports as well. So, at the end of the day, I ended up running for alderperson back in 2008, 2009. And this was a big topic for neighbors even back then. It's affectionately known as the castle by alumni and neighbors because it very much resembles one. It's certainly the size of one. And it's something that, our neighborhood does take a lot of pride in, and is very frustrated by the decline that the building has succumbed to over, the last decade and a half now. So there have been many efforts to revitalize and engage various developers, both local and, outside of the state even. over that time period. And through those discussions with both, developers and neighbors and, going around knocking doors in that area, I kind of came up with what I call the 3 E's, which are employment, education, and entertainment. And that really resonates with my neighbors. They would like to see this building, rebirthed as a, catalyst, for momentum in the neighborhood, to provide services and opportunities that a lot of people, not just in Dutchtown, but in Southeast City, have to leave the neighborhood to enjoy. If you want to go see a movie, you have to leave Southeast City to go see a movie. If you want to go bowling, or if you want to go to a craft store, if you want to go to an urgent care, those are all things that you generally would have to leave the Dutchtown neighborhood to do. And so the view, and Chris and I have had this conversation, there's no institution of higher learning, no secondary education facility south of 44 and east of Hampton. Roughly within a 3-mile radius of Cleveland High School is approximately 130,000 people that live within a 3-mile radius of Cleveland High School. That's a pretty significant population that is underserved and often has to leave their neighborhood for basic conveniences. And so this is really an opportunity. Again, it's just the first step, as Chris mentioned and as Zach mentioned, in this process to begin that community engagement process all over again. I'm looking forward to that. I am thrilled that we will be doing it with a partner who is willing to do so publicly, openly, transparently, with my neighbors and with the community as a whole, and engaging those stakeholders and what they would like to see happen here. I think that, I've been very cautious in the past with, various developers that have come forward, because it's always difficult to, get my neighbors and even myself enthused and excited about, an opportunity for redevelopment at the site, because so many times those efforts have fallen flat. So I really do want to commend Mr. Goodson on, taking the initiative, having the conversations with St. Louis Public Schools, getting to a place where there's even a memorandum of understanding or a letter of intent with the facility and with SLPS, and also, coming before this body with respect to, the assignment of development rights. And, yes, the Chapter 99 does provide for, certain tax incentives, but those would need to be reviewed and voted on in a subsequent meeting other than today. Today is just to, initiate that first step in this process. And it's a step that my neighbors and I have been through before, but not, as I mentioned, with someone who has had that experience and has done similar sized projects in the city of St. Louis. So I'm really excited about the opportunity for the redevelopment of Cleveland. I know many of my neighbors are as well, and certainly would appreciate your favorable consideration with respect to the item on today's agenda. And I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say one brief thing, I know I had my time, but I'll be very brief, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, no, because Alderman Cohn just reminded me. I mean, I started as a community developer, grassroots developer, and still am today. But I started as president of the Lafayette Square Neighborhood Group, just like Alderman Cohn mentioned about Dutchtown. That's where I got my start. I put my money where my mouth is. I also formed a business district that took on an old junkyard where the old Leisure Webby family had cars cut and tires burned right in the heart of Lafayette Square. And I listened to the community because I was leading them. And so this isn't just some gobbledygook. This is something I believe. I look forward to the alderman going out to the community because his leadership has paved the way. So I just wanted to say that because truly, you hear a lot of times all community driven. This is truly going to be that, because it's going to be a long, hard project, but it's going to be transformational, but it's going to involve all the neighbors. So I'll be quiet there. wanted to echo the Alderman's thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodson. Thank you, Alderman, for that background. And thanks for all your hard work in getting us to this point. So with that, I will entertain motion if there is one.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded properly. So I would ask Linda for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Aye.
and the motion passes with all voting yes.
No, it doesn't. I abstained.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, you recused yourself, but
Okay, well, however you want to record it.
Thank
All right.
Thank you so much to the board and Mr. Chairman and SLDC. Thank you, and Alderman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I will turn things back over to the chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Anderson. We'll take up resolution number 23, LCRA 10792, relating to 3417 Grace Avenue, also known as Fanning School. Zach, can you walk us through that, please?
Yes, sir. This resolution is declaring 3417 Grace Avenue to be blighted and approving blighting study and redevelopment plan for the same area. The redevelopment area would allow up to 15 years of tax abatement if this project is awarded LIHTC credits. If it does not is approved for LIHTC credits, it would authorize 10 years at 75%. The proposed use of the building would be 62 apartments. 19 will be affordable under the LIHTC plan. The initial investment will be $17.5 million. We got Jake Nearup here to talk over the financial scorecard, and Madeline Swanstrom talk over the community benefits scorecard, taking over for Andrew Knopp today. Also from Screaming Eagle, we have Matt Maziel to speak on the project also.
Okay. Well, let's start off with Matt Maziel just to give us some more background on this project.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Matt Maziel of Screaming Eagle Development. I've had this project under contract now with the school for a couple years. We've been working with SLPS, and this would be our third school we've converted into apartments. We've worked with SLPS since they closed the school, I think in 2020 or 2021. Put under contract at that time. We've been applying for the historic tax credits, and that's kind of been the long pole in the tent. In fact, we're actually in the application right now for the 2023-24 allocation for state historic tax credits. And as we started working on this deal and talking with the community, with Alderwoman Vasquez, as well as President Green, and kind of hearing what the Tower Grove South Neighborhood Association, hearing what the community would like as part of this project, we initially started it as all market rate apartments, and we were willing to work with the neighborhood and the community to transition part of this project into affordable housing. So we were looking at 19 units, which is 30% of the units to be affordable, 50% of AMI for those who would qualify in that area, as to help kind of the gentrification, slow the gentrification process of that neighborhood. That's what we've been hearing on and off from multiple parties, is that they want to have people that grew up in the neighborhood still want to be living in the neighborhood and can afford the neighborhood. So we took that on as a challenge and an opportunity here to do this development and work with the community and bring that that goal to the neighborhood. So that said, we're in process of applying for the state and federal low-income housing tax credits as well. That application will be due in September, and part of the process would obviously be going through the zoning and the tax abatement process to make sure that what we say we can do, we'll actually be able to achieve. And, we want to make sure that we have the support of the city as part of the process as well. And so we've been talking with, like I said, Alderwoman and Board President Green, Alderwoman Vasquez and Board President Green. They both support the project. I think the Alderwoman is actually on a plane. That's why she wouldn't be here as well to support the deal. With that, like I said, we have experience doing 2 other of these, turning them into apartments. We've done 3 conversions downtown into apartments. So this would be our 6th transaction. And like Zach said, it was about 17.5, $18 million project all in. I'm happy to take any questions.
And you're speaking of this current project that's $17.5 million, correct? That's not the
Yeah,
other
that's
part.
correct. Yeah,
And so
yeah, sorry.
how does this compare in size to your other projects?
The last 3 we completed were, the last one we just completed was an 18.5. The one before that was 19, and the one before that was 23.
Okay. Any
So
questions
this
for
is right in
Mr.
our sweet
Maziel?
spot. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Any questions for Mr. Maziel on this? I saw a hand up. There it is.
Working on keeping it.
Mr. Spencer.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple questions. First, I'll make a comment that I personally toured the Carondelet school project, and it was really done at a top class rate. And also make a point that this particular school has been vacant for several years, but not as long as Cleveland. And I just wanted to know what the current condition of the exterior of the roof, the interior is, and if there's any amenities planned for the project.
So let me answer those in I think in sequence there. So the building is currently in pretty good shape. As you mentioned, it's been closed, I think 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. We've been able to work with the St. Louis Public Schools to ensure that there has not been a whole lot of vandalism inside the building. And we've been checking it to make sure that if there's any roof leaks or anything like that, we've been able to catch that as those are, as you know, are things that would drive down or drive up costs and drive down value for the current school. That said, the property we did at Carondelet Lion School that you referenced had been closed for 10 years and had significant water damage in an area. We were, and I appreciate you saying that. It's very nice of you to say that we did a good job there, given a lot of constraints that we had in that project. We did those were all market rate units, even though technically they all would qualify as affordable housing, market rate housing. Technically, our rents are below the 80% of AMI on that property as well. On that property there. And then amenities we are going to have. We're showing a fitness room, a club room, some outdoor space for the residents to use, off-street parking, and then we would keep the green space. And we might have to cut back some trees, but we try to keep as many trees as we can to ensure that the nature of the building continues and the green space looks the same. I will say some of the things that we're going to do is return there's glass block windows in the building right now in the bell towers, if you will. We're going to put those back in their historic nature. The building is going to look really nice when we get finished with it.
Thank you. And just one clarifying point, the 19 affordable units will be the LIHTC portion of the project, and that's a 4%. And then
Correct.
43 market rate are at 80%. So those would be considered affordable as well, just not as affordable as the LIHTC units.
So I think there was a little miscommunication that is there. I don't think we're going to limit the 43 to 80% of AMI.
Okay.
I think by definition, where they are in the rent cycle where we think they're going to be is somewhere in that area, but they would not be rent controlled apartments.
Okay. Thank you.
Could you restate that? I didn't appreciate the change from affordable to 80% AMI. Could you just give us a breakdown of the 60, what I have is 62 apartments?
So 62 apartments, 19 of which are affordable, which are 50% of AMI. So
Okay.
we have 30% of the units at 50% of AMI, and then the other 70% of the units would be at market rate.
Okay, okay, that is what I understood then. All right, maybe you and Commissioner Spencer is approaching it from a different lane. All right, very good.
It's close enough to be considered, the market rate is close enough to be considered 80%, which is considered affordable. But
Right.
they're not gonna limit themselves to that 80%.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be close.
That's
All
correct.
right. Any other questions from the commissioners at this point? I caught Commissioner Anderson while I was taking a drink.
Oh, sorry.
Did you have any questions?
No.
No. I think typically we start with Mr. Knopf. So Ms. Swanson, you're going to be first then on walking us through the community benefit scorecard.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. Can we have the scorecard up on the screen, please? Okay, great, thank you. Yes, so this project, Fanning School, our policy is normally to award LIHTC projects 15 years of abatement, 10 years at 90, and 5 years at 50. But this score is pretty high. It gets into a tier 3, which is the highest, recommended abatement. Thank you, tier. So it receives 30 points for affordability for affordable housing, with those 43 units at 80% AMI, although it's not income restricted, and 19 units affordable at 50% AMI. It receives 5 points for using a vacant or surplus St. Louis public school building. It was built in 1907, so it also receives 5 points for historic preservation. It's located in 2 blocks of the Grand Cherokee and Gravois commercial corridors, so it receives 5 points for that. And for transit access, it's only 500 feet from a bus stop on the frequent Grand 70 bus route. It has a total capital investment of over 17 million, which it receives 4 points for. And they're bringing in some outside funding with state and federal historic tax credits as well as LIHTC, so it receives 2 points for that. It receives no points for geography. It is in an economic justice index area 5, so it doesn't receive any points for geography, but because of the level of affordability, it scores very highly on our scorecard.
And then if the LIHTC were not to be approved, then that would remove how many points? I'm actually not
Sure, I can ask Andrew over text.
Oh, okay. But as I understand it, go ahead, Zach.
It drops us a few points, but the issue is the rent range still is in with the 80% AMI. So that's why they don't get LIHTC. That's why we dropped it down to 10 at 75. So
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Any questions on the community benefit scorecard? All right, then Jake, then we'll move over to the financial impact report.
Good afternoon. Because this building is currently owned by the Board of Education, it's not taxable. So the base taxes for the property are 0. So in that regard, this performs very well from a fiscal impact standpoint, because it's kind of all positive benefit. Paying taxes during the abatement period during that 15-year scenario of about $30,000 annually compared to a baseline number of 0. And annual taxes after the abatement's over of about $140,000 annually. So the total fiscal benefit to the city over 10 years is a little under 280,000, 279, increasing to 775,000 over 20 years. And revenue impacts for the school district are about 250,000 over the first 10 years, increasing to 1.3 million over 20 years after that abatement burns off. And we have a net present value of the abatement of about $867,000. There is a little bit of a wrinkle in that calculation. Because the property is currently owned by Board of Education, the baseline 0, but the assumption is once that property is sold to a private entity, there would be some assessment applied to the improvements. It's kind of difficult to judge what the assessment would be on those improvements in their current state, but that would bump the baseline number up a little bit from an abatement standpoint, reducing the value of the abatement slightly. So using kind of the SLPS's list price of the guide, and then assuming a conservative estimate and a few other things, I think the net present value of that abatement is probably closer to about $750,000 rather than 867. But that's just kind of back of the envelope math. There is a little bit of wiggle room there either way. Based on 12.5 million in hard costs, we're also estimating impacts for minority-owned businesses of 3 million and women-owned businesses of 1.4 million.
Very good. Any questions for Jake on the financial impact report? And Jake, does an award or inability to obtain the ELITech award change the calculation that you run?
Sure. So yeah, as Zach kind of mentioned, I think the alternative scenario without the LIHTC, assuming that all of the units are at the market rate rents, which are below the 8-10 AMI limits, we would do significantly less abatement. So it'd be 10 years at 75% instead of 15 years, 10 at 95 to 50. So that would increase the net revenue to the city and school district over the 15 and 20-year window significantly, and the 10-year window as well, because there's just fewer taxes being abated. And obviously the net present value of the abatement would be reduced as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I also just wanted to add quickly, back to your question, Chair McBride, about whether the LIHTC would affect the score. Because I just checked the actual scorecard. It would stay the same. Any outside funding, the project is 2 points. So if they're using the historic tax credits, that would stay the same, even if they didn't get LIHTC.
Very good. And as I look at the resolution on page 2 of this, does it account for that contingency, Mr. Meyer? I see paragraph 2 addresses.
You're correct. There's a typo there, so we would have to add the line of 10 at 75 is of no LIHTC
Is awarded. Okay.
right.
And that's what you see also, David?
Correct. Yeah. No, that's, I don't know if you can hear me, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Inaccurate.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners on this resolution? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to amend resolution 23 LCRA 10792. So the paragraph 2 of the now therefore clause supplemented with the language that the abatement is 10 years at 75% if no LIHTC is awarded.
So moved.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. May we roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
and Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
And now at this time, I entertain a motion to approve amended resolution 23 LCRA 10792.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, probably moved and seconded. Let's do a roll call vote on this as well.
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Very good, thank you. And good luck on the project.
Thank you.
And at this time, we'll,
Chairman,
yes.
I just learned that I'm gonna have to leave at 3 o'clock.
Okay,
I'm not sure if we have anything that would require my vote, but if we could front load it, that'd be great.
I appreciate that notice.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson, do we just keep going straight down, or is there anything?
Yeah,
we need-
if we get a couple more done, I think we'd be okay if Marvin leaves after that, so.
Very good. Let's move on to a resolution 23 LCRA 10793 relating to 3041 Locust.
Yes, sir. This resolution is declaring 3041 Locust to be blighted and approving a blighting study and redevelopment plan for that same address. It's about, this redevelopment area would be 0.16 acres in the Midtown neighborhood. It's a commercial building that will be gutted and rehabbed into 8 apartments and 58 square feet of offices. The prospective developer is Danielle Bach. The initial cost of the development will be $4.5 million. We might have Jason Johnson on call. He's the consultant on the deal. If not, we have Jake Narup to go over the financial scorecard and Madeline Swanstrom to go over the community benefits.
All right. Well, Ms. Swanson, why don't you go and start on the community benefits, and then if we can see if Mr. Johnson's in the participant side, and the other side, and bring him over.
Sure. Okay, so this project scores a 43, which puts it into the tier 2 of our community benefits scorecard. It receives, so of course that's the maximum, of course. So the site is located within an economic justice index area 2, which, so it receives 20 points for that. And it creates about 20 full-time jobs. So that it receives 6 points for that. The building was built in 1917, so it receives 5 points for historic preservation. It is on the Locust Commercial Corridor, and it receives 5 points for that. And it's within 1/4 of a mile of a bus stop, so it receives 3 points. Transit access. The total capital investment is over $4 million, and it receives 2 points for that. And they are bringing outside funding, state and federal historic tax credits, so it receives 2 points in that area as well, bringing it to a score of 43.
All right. Any questions from Madeline on this? Thank you, Madeline. Are we located? If Jason's on, has joined us or no?
I don't believe he is.
Okay, very good. And Jake, if you could walk us through the financial impact report, please.
So this property was formerly occupied by JP Bushnell Packing Company. So it does have base taxes of a little under $12,000 right now. It's my understanding that they were down to about 2 employees in that entire building and have since relocated but stayed within the city. The model is projecting taxes about $24,000 annually during the 10-year abatement period and about $70,000 annually after the abatement. The 8 apartments proposed for the upper levels are quite large. They're all 2-bedroom layouts, and they average about 1,300 square feet a piece. They all have windows wrapping all around the building. And then the commercial space, office space on the first floor, it was indicated to us that it would be marketed to kind of creative firms, but we modeled it just kind of as a generic commercial space rather than leaning too hard into office. And that's reflected in the job creation numbers as well. We stuck with 20, I believe. The application indicated a few more, but we wanted to be conservative with job estimates, not knowing who would actually be in the office on any given day. But we projected total fiscal benefits to the city of about 217,000 over 10 years, increasing to 567,000 over 20, and benefits of $100,000 to the school district over the first year, increasing to 533,000 over 20 years. Total project hard costs are a little over 3 million. So that would be minority owned impacts of 738,000 and impacts for women-owned businesses of 338,000. And we have a net present value of the incentive of 263,000, which is a little under 6% of project costs.
Very good. Any questions for Jake on the financial impact report? Yes, recognizing Commissioner Spencer.
Jake, do you know if the historic tax credits have been approved, and is the demo started, or what's the current status of the project?
I drove by the building a few weeks ago and it looked like the windows were gone. Maybe there might be some light demo that started. I don't think any significant work has been done. As far as the state of the tax credits, we don't know.
Oh, okay.
Just to point out, we received this application many months ago, so they did not start the demo or any type of work until way after they submitted the application. So.
Okay.
I believe we got this application about a year ago. And so we actually modeled it under our old model. A year ago, the financing terms were a bit more favorable. So we remodeled it just a week or two ago with updated financial terms.
Okay.
We also had to wait for the new alderperson's support and the neighborhood engagement piece to be submitted to us. That was the two last pieces we waited for.
Excellent. Do you know if the apartments would be considered student housing, or I'm not sure?
It's not, in my view, particularly attainable to students. I think because they're so large, the rents are under $2 a square foot, but at 1,300 square feet, they have average rents of about $2,300 a month. So it's possible, maybe one or two, but I think it's more of a young professional would be my guess as far as targeting goes.
Yeah, it looks like a good reuse for the property. Thank you.
And has Ms. Bach had previous projects with us before?
Not in front of this board, no, sir.
But she's using Mr. Jansen as a
consultant, yes.
Consultant, okay. And is that has the total cost is 4.5 million. Does that include the acquisition cost of 1.1 million?
No, it does not. I believe.
Okay. So all in they're at 5.6.
Correct. Jake, am I incorrect about that?
Yeah, the 4.7 includes 1.1.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, it is. So it's 4.7 all in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We usually take that out on the other resolution. So good catch, Commissioner McBride.
All right. Any other questions on this resolution? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10793.
So approved as previous round.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded with a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to that request? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right, moving on to 23 LCRA 10794 relating to 4900 Gravois at Bevo Mill.
Point of order, Commissioner or Chairman McBride.
Yes.
I need to recuse myself from the discussion and the vote on this project.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. And Mr. Wilson, if you proceed.
Yes, sir. Resolution 100794. This resolution is designating Crossroads Living LI Litech. I'm LP as redeveloper of the property located at 4900 through 4914 Gravois Avenue and 4266 Dolores Street redevelopment area. This is kind of a two-parter. We're designating them developer for this site, plus also authorizing us to issue taxable industrial revenue bonds tied to construction sales tax incentive. So just a kind of reminder of what the project is. This area was approved back in 2021 by ordinance 71420, allowing for up to 15 years of tax abatement, 10 years at 95%, followed by 5 years at 50%. It will be 64 senior living apartments at the corner of kind of where Gravois, Morgan Ford, and Delore all hit. It was a bank building, now it's a vacant lot, and they'll be hopefully start construction here soon. I'll hand over to Jerry Burka, who will answer any questions you have for the developer. And we have Mark Spikerman here also if you have any questions about the industrial revenue bonds process.
Very good. Mr. Burka, would you add a little more context to this for us?
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody's time and really appreciate the discussion about Cleveland High School too. I'm excited about that. It's a long time coming. So we finished our architectural plans, those have been submitted to the city. The city has approved them and so our building permit is ready to be picked up. We went through a rezoning change here recently and that's been approved. Our contractor, E.M. Harris, is accepting final bids currently. Their cost opinion that they gave us back in May indicated that our costs are up about $1 million from the projected cost that's listed here that was included in our application. So we're about $19.5 million. So this addition of the sales tax exemption is extremely important for our ability to do this project feasibly. We're able to cover some of the costs with additional tax credits that we have secured. But this sales tax exemption will be very critical to making this project work. Once we get the final numbers from our contractor, which should be next week, we'll submit our firm funding applications to MHDC and to HUD, and we're fully expecting to close on all our financing and start construction in October of this year.
Very good. And let's see if you could just kind of give us a brief overview as to the use of the property.
The use of the property. This is a 64-unit senior apartment building. It's a mixed income, mixed financed project with HUD funding and some HUD rental assistance for 30 of the units. So of the 64 units, 30 will be targeted to seniors with incomes as low as 30% of AMI, some at 50% of AMI, and then there are tax credit units at 60% of AMI, and 7 units are market rate. So it's a mixed income project that will be, it's all senior, all intended to be independent living. Lutheran Senior Services is a co-sponsor with Tower Grove. They will be managing the facility and providing supportive services for our seniors.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions from Mr. Burka on this resolution? All right, hearing none. Mr. Spikerman, do you want to walk us through the taxable industrial revenue bonds provisions?
Sure. The taxable industrial revenue bonds are a method in which the LCRA can essentially loan its sales tax exempt status to the developer. These bonds are purchased by the developer and they're there solely to facilitate the sales tax exemption. They don't actually finance in a traditional way the project. The bonds are payable only from lease revenues paid by the developer. They're not payable from any city sales tax or other tax or general funds. And at the end of the construction period, we unwind the transaction. As part of our ongoing Data point collections also, the developer will be required to, upon completion of the project, submit a report showing how that incentive was utilized.
And I know we've received at least one of those reports. So have we had any more data points added in this,
We
this
had
process?
we had 2 data points added this spring, yeah.
And do those support our understanding that the vast sizable majority of items purchased pursuant to these taxable industrial revenue bonds are outside the city of St. Louis?
That is correct, yes.
Any questions from Mr. Spikerman on the taxable industrial revenue bond portion of this resolution? All right. Mr. Wilson, any other presenters on this resolution?
No, sir.
Thank you. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10794.
So move using previous row. Oh, wait, we can't, sorry, so moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
and Chairman McBride.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all voting yes.
Thank you. Moving on to, and good luck on your project, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Moving on to 23 LCRA 10795, relating to 777 Olive, replacing prior resolutions and extending the completion date.
Yeah, this
Zach,
is,
will you walk us through that, please?
Yes, sir. This is a little bit of a doozy here. We're shoving 3 things into one resolution, so bear with me. First one is we're repealing resolutions 19 LCRA 10473, which designates 705 LLC as developer of this site. So we're repealing that one, and also repealing 19 LCR 10516, was authorized industrial revenue bonds for that same developer. That's the first action on this resolution. Second action on the resolution is to extend the completion date till January 1st, 2026. So if we approve this resolution, we're approving the extension of that completion date to give this developer a little bit of time to finish the project. The third piece is to designate 777 Olive Street HTC LLC as the redeveloper, and also to enter in a redevelopment agreement and stating intent to issue taxable industrial revenue bonds. To give you a little idea what the project will be, it'll be a 240-room dual Marriott hotel. That costs about $82 million. Tax abatement will be 10 years at 90%. On the call, we have John Claiborne and John Campo. Also, we have Jake to talk over the numbers, Madeline talk over the community benefits, and Mark Spikeman talk over industrial revenue bonds discussions, questions you have.
Very good. Then, oh, I see, Mr. Claiborne, why don't we start with you? And if you have any more context or color to add to what Zach had provided.
So I have a screen to share with a slide deck if I'm able to do that. Okay. So here it is. And I'll, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I will hand it over to John Campo, who is spearheading this for the development team. John, are you on? Can you hear us?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, John. Thank you.
Very good. Greetings from New Orleans. Thank you very much, commissioners, for having me at your meeting this afternoon. I want to say first how much I love St. Louis. I really do mean that. I've fallen in love with that city, and everything about it reminds me of some of my great experiences here in New Orleans. You guys have great culture, incredible food, particularly at the Hill. I'm Italian, and so I really enjoy eating at the Hill at those Italian restaurants. I've become friends with a lot of your business community, and we have been welcomed with open arms for this project. This project is Campo Architects. This is my 40th year in practice, and we're a national practice that I like to say that we breathe new life into America's historic treasures, and this is one. The Chemical Building is unlike any building that we have redeveloped. It has just an incredible natural beauty about it, including the bay windows. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is an artistic rendering of the building, and you folks know it well. It is just stunning. The bay windows, particularly the double bay windows on the corners, make for incredible guest experiences for a hotel. This project is 240 guest rooms. It also will have a restaurant on the ground floor opposite of the corner space. There's about 3,000 square feet that we have as a white box. And so we're going to be looking and interviewing with some of your local restaurateurs. So unlike most Residence Inns and Spring Hill Suites, there's going to be an enhancement to the food and beverage side. That is meant not just for hotel guests, but for the community. One of the things that I've learned since we acquired this building is there's an awful lot of folks that live downtown in those high-rise multifamily buildings that are, I think, looking for dining experiences. So we were listening to that, and that's something that we have planned for it. You know, this building has been vacant for quite a while. And in our experience, once these types of facilities, particularly at this scale, are revitalized, it creates a safer environment. And, you know, we deal with a lot of the same issues in New Orleans that you good folks in St. Louis deal with. And so we know that a vacant building is not necessarily the safest building. And forgive me, I don't mean to be criticizing it. It's just we're excited about putting this building back into commerce. And, you know, it's adjacent to another Marriott product, which is the Hotel St. Louis, which is an autograph collection. So I think it's going to have a catalytic effect, not just on the Chemical Building itself, but on adjacent real estate. So really that's, I know that, you know, we're kind of running short on time. That's what I wanted to convey. You can see here that in this rendering, save for the canopy, the building exterior is going to be cleaned up. The windows are going to be preserved to the extent that they're still functional, but we're retaining 99% of that exterior character defining element. We are making transparent the bottom floor where it's more inviting. And so it starts activating the street scene at night, which is what this rendering shows, is a very open, inviting space, transparent. There's some uplighting that on the horizontal decorative bands that are used to accent the vertical nature of the building. But for the most part, we are repairing and enhancing the existing exterior skin. Next slide. Contrary to the exterior, the interior, where there are character defining elements that are historical, we're preserving them. But those areas that are not have a much more contemporary feel. We have been approved by the state of Missouri for state historic tax credits and federal historic tax credits. I'm bringing that up because contrary to what you might think, what most folks think is these agencies don't want a false recreation of history. What they're looking for is a clear line of demarcation using architecture and interior so that, you know, these interior shots you're looking at are very contemporary because the historic fabric that was there is gone. If you look at the rendering on the right, you can see that what we are retaining are those beautiful bay windows, which are going to be window seats. It doesn't take long as you walk up this building to get a view of Busch Stadium. So I suppose some guests with binoculars might get a free ride on some of your Cardinals games. So with that, I don't have any more to add, but I'm certainly here to answer any of your questions.
Sure, Mr. Campo. This will be dual branded, so how is that mechanically going to work? Is there going to be like half and half bisecting it east and west, or?
Yeah, that's a good question, sir. The floor plans for the guest rooms, pardon me, there is a section of the rooms that are for the Courtyard brand on the same floor, and then on the opposite leg, there is a portion dedicated to the Spring Hill Suites. The lobby, the check-in actually it's singular. It's one check-in where guests can check in for both of the hotel flags.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then, yeah, I'm glad you enjoy the hill, but if you're able to bring up Adolfo's from Frenchman, get a little different style of Italian into St. Louis,
I'll bring Irene's too.
Outstanding. Now we're talking. Mr. Claiborne, did you have anything else to add after Mr. Campo's presentation?
I don't have anything to add specifically. The history of this is that some of the original development plans were implemented by an adjacent owner who never never ultimately developed this piece. So a lot of the mechanical requests here are a result of that, just to lay the groundwork of what these requests are. So. And that's it. I think the building.
I think this board is aware of that. I mean, and then we did a hotel feasibility study recently, or not recently, but within the last. Zach, how long ago was that? Was that 4 or 5 years ago?
Probably about 3 years. I'm guessing.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this fits within the rooms that were still need to be constructed or reconfigured in that hotel study?
Yes, they called for more different levels of branding, and I think this fits right in there. So.
Okay.
And Jake can go into further detail that we scored the financial model to take in some of that substitution effect, but he can address that one.
Okay, the substitution effect. Very good. Well, then let's go ahead and move on to the community benefit scorecard first. So if we could hit that, Madeline.
I think they're trying to pull it up right now.
Oh, Mr. Campo, I think you're still sharing the screens. I don't know.
Oh, that's what. John, can you remove that, please? Yep. Thank you.
How do I do that? Let's see.
All right. Linda, can you help?
I got it.
Okay, it's taken care of.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. Not a problem. All right, Swanson, or whoever's putting the community benefit scorecard up. There we go.
Perfect. So this project scores a 40 on our community benefit scorecard, which just gets it into tier 2. Okay, so there are 67 hotel or retail jobs that will be created through this project. So it receives 9 points for total jobs created. It's a pretty high capital investment, so it receives 7 points for capital investment. Really good transit access within a half mile of the 8th and Pine Metrolink station, so it receives 7 points there. It's of course using a historic building, the vacant chemical building, so the project receives 5 points there for historic preservation. Oh, sorry, for existing vacant building renovation. It was built in 1896, so it receives 5 points for historic preservation. It is also located within an employment district, and it receives 5 points there. And they're also bringing in some outside funding with state and federal historic tax credits. And they received 2 points for outside funding. So all in all, that gets it up to a score of 40.
Very good. Any questions on the community benefit scorecard? Hearing none, then Jake, we'll move on to you with the
Nobody else
There you go.
doesn't say that'd be okay.
the financial impact report.
Sure. So obviously this is a very significant investment in downtown with an $82 million project. So we have pretty significant financial impact numbers here. The chemical building has base taxes currently of a little over $65,000 a year. During the abatement period, we expect that to increase to a little under $150,000 annually, and then about $1 million a year after the abatement ends. We modeled the hotels with an average room rate of $180 a night, and an average occupancy rate of about 70%. As Zach noted, there is a significant substitution effect involved here. Our model uses a substitution effect of 57% for hotel rooms. So we're assuming that more than half of these rooms would be rented in the city in any given night anyway. So with the net new being about 43% of those room nights. So you have a 10-year fiscal benefit to the city of 1.9 million, increasing to 5.6 million over 20 years. Fiscal impact to the schools of 1.4 million over 10 years, increasing to 8.6 million over 20. The developer, one thing I would note, I noticed in Mr. Campo's presentation, he had construction costs of about 54 million. We have about 62.9 million for hard cost and construction. So just something I want to flag that we noticed that doesn't have an impact on the scorecard really. We're not using, the total investment number is sufficiently high that it reaches the same threshold either way, plus or minus $8 million. But I did want to note it. So we do have incentive value, net present value of a little under 5 million, so about 6% of the total project costs. The developer returns for hotel deals are a little bit higher. The cap rates are still kind of feeling the impact of COVID on hotels. So you do see a developer return here of 10.2% with incentives, but that hits the median number pretty precisely for the RERC cap rates of 10.2%. And based on total hard costs, we have impacts of 12.8 million for minority-owned businesses and a little under 6 million for women-owned businesses.
Very good. We appreciate it. Any questions for Jake on the financial impact report? Did I hear somebody or no? And Jake, did you look at the previous financial impact reports in creating this particular one for this property?
For the previous proposal for the building?
Correct.
Not explicitly. We started this one fresh, but I do, if I remember correctly, this one's about 30 or 40 million dollars more in investment. I believe the previous proposal was a kind of a boutique hotel with some multifamily, but we didn't do a comparison between the two.
Okay, and it was under a different rubric, so it wouldn't be a one-to-one comparison anyway. I appreciate that. I just
Hey, do we know how the acquisition cost currently compares to previous? I don't recall all of the structure of the previous project.
No, I do not have that from me, but I can forward that to you once I pull the file.
Just curious.
No, the building previously was going to use at least 50-50, half apartments, half hotel, boutique hotel. Because the building next door is set up similar to the way that was what the owner prefers to do, to a little mix of both. So
Okay, be great if we got this back online.
Yes. We've had numerous developers look at this, so we're very excited about this development, so.
Yeah, beautiful building.
And Marvin's, Commissioner Anderson's question does call into question, what is the site control look like for this current project? Has it been acquired by the current development group or?
Yeah, the
what's
building, pardon me, the building was
Go ahead.
purchased all cash December before last.
Okay. All right, well, we'd certainly like to get that corner stabilized and revitalized. I think this looks like a good use, a beautiful use. So if there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10795.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Very good. Good luck.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Moving on to resolution 23 LCRA 10796 relating to the Beacon on Chestnut. Zach, you want to walk us through that, please?
Yes, sir. This resolution is designating Beacon on Chestnut LLC as redevelopment at the property located at 909 Chestnut Street redevelopment area. This is also a two-parter that will allow them to enter a redevelopment agreement with the LCRA and also start the issuing the taxable industrial revenue bonds for construction sales tax. Just a reminder of the project. The ordinance was approved by ordinance 71631 was approved in February 2023 by the Board of Aldermen, allowed for 15 years of tax abatement, 5 years at 95%, followed by 5 years at 75%, followed by 5 years at 50%. The project would be at 306 apartments, a little over 4,000 square feet of commercial space, 100 parking spaces inside the building, off-street parking, I believe a block away. And it'll be an estimated cost about $300 million. We got Shayla and Jacob from Steadfast City to speak on the behalf of the developer. We got Jake about I don't think we've already discussed the scorecard on this project, so we don't need to go over that. But we have Shayla and Jacob to discuss the project and then where the project stands currently. We also have Mark Spikeman on the call to answer any questions you have on the industrial revenue bonds piece.
Thank you. Shayla and Jacob, could you get us some context on this?
Thank you, Zach, and thank you, Commissioner McBride and commissioners of the board. Obviously, this is a very transformational downtown project that we all are very excited about. We're excited to no longer see a building of this magnitude and close proximity to other downtown amenities remain vacant. So we thank the commissioners for their time today. Our development team has been hard at work to get to this point today to hopefully receive developer designation, and we look forward to bringing the Beacon on Chestnut to fruition. So, and thank you for the introduction, Zach.
And where are you on the progress of putting together the capital stack and everything necessary to proceed?
Yeah, sure. So being here today, receiving the developer designation is certainly a key step for a project of this magnitude and size. So it will be a key step on the closing of the acquisition financing that we hope to close on shortly after receiving developer designation.
And is there some cutoff by which if you go over 300 million that there's a different allocation of capital? Or I was just curious why that cost is so precise in our materials.
The approximate costs are 300 million. They do include the acquisition costs in that as well. And they are how we are estimating the project cost to date.
We did round up on our slide there.
Oh, we round up. Okay. I'm still looking at materials in front of me. Okay.
We have a little 2999, so we rounded up there.
As I think is appropriate. Very good. Any questions for Shayla or Jacob from the Steadfast City team? Hearing none. Let's see, let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Spikerman.
Thank you, Commissioner McBride. Yes, this similar to the other projects that were on the agenda that are receiving this incentive. It's a industrial revenue bond transaction solely for the purpose of facilitating sales tax exemption on the construction materials, of which there will be a considerable amount of. And as you mentioned during the prior project, we expect most of those materials will be purchased outside the city of St. Louis, making the impact on the city minimal.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, any questions for Mr. Spikerman on the taxable industrial revenue bonds? And for their Steadfast City representatives, is there an intent? I saw something in the paper about I believe it was like a self-contained city some months ago in the Post. Is that still the plan to proceed, or has that developed or been refined at all?
Commissioner McBride, do you just mind repeating what you said? I didn't quite catch. What did you hear in the Post?
Sure. I was just trying to, some months ago, I believe it was for this site that there was a proposed use that had been outlined. And so I didn't know if that proposed use had been further refined, or if you could just give us just a quick overview, at least of where you are now, understanding that you've yet to even be named developer. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So the proposed use, mixed use redevelopment building, planning on including retail, multifamily, residential, 306 units, hotel, office space, to make up the, I believe it, approximately 1.3 square foot total building.
All right. Zach, do we have to hear from anyone else?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay, any questions from the commissioners on the issues raised in this resolution? Commissioner Spencer, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to get a little more detail on the historic preservation tax credits. So will you be applying this year? And are there any concerns about the state cap on those credits?
Thank you, Commissioner. We will be, yes, the project will include historic tax credits, federal and state. The developer anticipates full approval from the Park Service before the end of this month, followed by a 90-day full allocation and approval from SHPO.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it certainly is a large undertaking, and we appreciate the efforts. And if there are no further questions, then at this time, we'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution 23 LCRA 10796.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
and Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Thank you. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to 23 LCRA 10797 relating to extension of the MDFB loan.
Chairman, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to hop.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you joining us. We're still going to maintain our quorum.
Thank you. Hopefully the minutes will reflect Commissioner Jones difficulty with the technology.
No, we're absolutely redacting those from the minutes.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Very good, very good. Let's see, oh, the MDFB. Who was taking that up? Looks like Charlie's on. There he is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution kind of picks up from a resolution you considered back at the end of April, extending the loan with or the obligation we have to MDFB on 600 Washington. At that time, the maturity date was extended from May 1st to August 1st. MDFB wanted to use that time for discussion on long-range plans. We've had, I would say, numerous discussions with MDFB in the 3 months, May, June, and July, and that we are, and internal discussions, but we're not ready to proceed on a long-term plan. And MDFB at its July meeting extended the obligation to September 30th. And this basically does the same thing. As you know, there's a reciprocal agreement that automatically extends with the master tenant slash developer. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Charlie. And so just you're cutting down out just a little bit. So just to restate, we're just looking to have a brief extension of this, I believe, to September 30th of this year. And at that time, we're looking to just sort out where we stand on this loan and how it will be paid off. Okay, yeah. So this gives us more breathing room. I mean, I think that makes sense. And it relates to the one city center. So any questions for Charlie on this MDFB loan? Commissioner Spencer.
I got to work on how I get this raise hand button to work a little faster for me. So thanks for your patience. Charlie, I know in the resolution it says there might be a need to extend it further. Maybe you could give a little more background on just what the challenges are, because I think I've seen this at least twice. And I know we're trying to be helpful, but at some point, we've got to see some closure on this.
No, the state wants closure on it. We want closure on it. We'll certainly be back to you when we think we might have a solution, which would be in that next 60-day period. So just asking for your allowing us to talk a little bit more.
No, certainly, yeah. We need to make sure that they have a good and deliberate decision and discussion on this. Any further questions for Charlie on this resolution? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve Resolution 23 LCRA 10797.
So moved.
Second.
Promptly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Spencer.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Very good. And moving on to Resolution 23 LCRA 10798, relating to a contribution to Greater St. Louis for engineering fees. Rob, are you going to walk us through that?
I'm going to do my best. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Resolution 23 LCRA 10798 authorizes and approves the land clearance for redevelopment authority to reimburse Greater STL for a portion of additional engineering design fees for the 7th Street roadway improvement project between Washington Avenue and Walnut Street. This project was originally contemplated back in 2015, along with a parallel project on 8th Street that basically was thought to be connecting our convention center with many other attractions, but on the north side with the Ballpark Village and Busch Stadium on the south side. Contemplated in this development is a separated bike path on 7th Street, which would be the only separated bike path in our central business district downtown, LCRA. And originally it was Downtown Now when it was part of the Downtown STL group, later absorbed by Greater St. Louis into its umbrella organization. They drew up plans and initiated the efforts to get this project going. Along the way, LCRA applied for tax credit for contributions to the MDFB Finance Board. So LCRA has been a partner at every step of the way, and Downtown Now actually initiated the engineering contract with HOK and its sub-consultants, David Mason and Lockmuller Group. And so Downtown Now provided much of that funding, although part of it was paid for by the tax credit donations. Additionally, LCRA worked with the Board of Public Service to secure federal financing in an amount of $2.4 million. And this project was put out for bid finally after several years last fall. The bids came in, they were all just shy of $1 million over the budgets that we had. So since then, in order to do some value engineering to try and figure out how to cut some of the costs out of that project, additional engineering fees were required. And LCRA has agreed to split those additional engineering fees with Downtown STL in order to keep this, or Greater STL, in order to keep this project moving. So we are seeking authorization to pay Greater STL our share, which would be $22,765. This project will be put out for bid in the coming weeks as that engineering work has been completed. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob. And is that engineering going to be put up to bid through one of our approved engineers, or is this going to be handled by Greater STL?
So the engineering work was contracted with Downtown Now. The original contract was around $290,000, either Downtown Now or Greater STL. I'm not sure at what point that merger happened and the contract was then absorbed into Greater STL, but they paid the additional $90-some thousand on the original contract. Subsequent to that, we needed to have some additional engineering, take another look at it to value engineer it down. So that work has already been done. It was under the original contracts with these additional change order fees being requested by HOK and its sub-consultants. So the engineering work is done. We didn't hire any of the engineering. We just agreed to help pay a portion of Greater STL's expenses, since we have been working hand in hand with them throughout the process. The Board of Public Service will actually be the entity that puts out the project for bid, and they will take over the management of the construction phase of that. So once the bids are received and hopefully awarded this time, it's basically the city's Board of Public Service will take over from that point.
Understood. Well, that makes good sense, and it seems like we're getting a lot of value out of that. Any questions for Rob from the commissioners? I see Commissioner Spencer's hand up.
Thank you. It was good to hear BPS is going to lead that. Is this a project that we think can get actually like the physical construction completed in 18 months or so? What's your, I mean, looking at this resolution from 2016, you know, we need to get it done. So what do you think, Rob, is just an estimate on the timeline?
I think 18 months is realistic. Unfortunately, we may not be in competition with postseason baseball this year, so some of that work can maybe get done on the southern portion of this corridor, and maybe not then be in, you know, in the way come next spring when, you know, our 12th World Series championship season starts. So we'll see how that plays out. But 18 months is approximate schedule. It's only 0.6 of a mile, but it's right through the heart of our central business district. Railway Exchange abuts it on the east side. Very important that we get this done, and yeah, so I think that's why we're here today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned the Railroad Exchange building. It does meet up with our mission to share some of these costs, and love to see it get completed in a timely manner. Thank you.
And thank you for your baseball prognostications. We're going to hold you to it as well. Any other questions for Rob? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution 23 LCRA 10798.
So moved with previous row.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded with the request for previous roll. Is there any objection to that request? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. Let's take up 23 LCRA 10799 for grant activities to reconnecting communities and neighborhoods.
Yeah, and another potentially fun infrastructure project that we're looking at to help revitalize the Goodfellow corridor in far northwest St. Louis. So this resolution, 23 LCRA 10799, authorizes a contract not to exceed $24,000 with Lockmuller Group to prepare a grant application to the United States Department of Transportation's Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods program. And the focus of this grant is, as I mentioned, the Goodfellow corridor, but it will also take a look at the Riverview corridor, as both Riverview and Goodfellow kind of work in tandem in the northwest section of St. Louis. The purpose is if you're familiar with this area, I-70 basically disconnected neighborhoods to the north, including Walnut Park East and Walnut Park West, from areas to the south of I-70, which is really an industrial and institutional government facility primarily over the years. LCRA owns the 17-acre site at the southeast corner of I-70 and Goodfellow. It's the former St. Louis Army ammunition plant. We've been working for 15 years to not only clean it up, but prepare it for redevelopment. It's marked under the city's strategic land use plan as an area for regional commercial development. And we will renew our efforts to market that site, hopefully seeking regional type retailers that don't really exist in St. Louis. As you know, St. Louis loses a lot of retail sales to people going outside the city for all kinds of various goods, but home goods and lumber yards and those types of things that don't exist within the St. Louis, other than the one on Home Depot on South Kings Highway and the Lowe's down there at the I-70 complex off of Loughborough. Couldn't think of the name, sorry. So at any rate, we want to take a look at how to better connect those neighborhoods and what we think is the potentially future significant job opportunities. This federal complex a little farther south on Goodfellow is about 67 acres. The General Services Administration is emptying that site out. And in the future, LCRA and the city will be working with other regional partners to try and acquire that site and create a 67 acre industrial site to create hopefully some significant jobs and opportunities. There's another developer who's acquired a few buildings farther north on Goodfellow, closer to our SLAP site. So we think it's an opportunity to take a look at how to better connect those residents to the job opportunities, basically from I-70 down to Natural Bridge. So we are seeking a $24,000 authorization to hire Lockmuller Group. They did prepare a similar grant for us last year in the North Riverfront area, where we were looking at connecting the Bottle District, the Convention Center area, the northern part of our central business district with the North Riverfront. That grant was not successful. The debriefing from that suggested that while we probably could have tweaked it enough to maybe provide a successful grant, We think this Goodfellow has maybe more of an imminent opportunity for us, particularly in light of the developments that are occurring now and that may occur in the near future. And if you've been up on Goodfellow, it's extremely wide. You could land an airplane on it. We're looking at, there's no sidewalks throughout most of that area. There's literally a fire hydrant right in the middle of Goodfellow for some reason. And so we'd like to take a look at how do we make that corridor not only commercially viable again, but also connect residents to the jobs that we hope to be created over the next several years. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Rob. No, I think that makes a lot of good sense. And to try to account for the damage done to these communities with putting the highways right through the middle of them. Any questions for Rob from the commissioners? All right, hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10799.
So moved, request a previous roll.
Second.
From properly moved and seconded with a request for previous roll. Is there any objection to that request? Hearing no objection, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. All right, I think at this time then we have a issue which would lead us in a closed session. And Mr. Meyer, could you verbalize the bases for our motion to go into closed session?
Yes, it's my understanding is to discuss matters involving leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate as provided by section 610.021 sub 2.
Very good. Then I would entertain such a motion.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Maybe we have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones, and Chair McBride.
Aye.
The motion passes with all voting yes.
Very good. Then at this time, we will go into executive session. Once we conclude that, we'll return back to this general session. Thank you. All right, looks like we have our quorum. At this time, I believe we're in general session. Is there anything to report in open agenda?
Exactly now, so I guess not.
Oh,
I believe so.
let's
David,
make
you don't
sure.
have- David
Rob, do you have
doesn't-
anything else? Anything to report in open agenda? Okay. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. And Commissioner Spencer, you're muted, but I thought you seconded.
Second.
You did second. Very good. And our next meeting is scheduled for August 22, 2023. Thank you all for your time.